How to detect a manipulator before it's too late. Stoic Wisdom. There is a dangerous truth about life. Manipulators don't come with warning signs. They don't introduce themselves by saying, "Hello, I'm here to control you." No, they come smiling. They come kind. They come supportive. And sometimes, they come as lovers, friends, family, mentors. By the time you realize what is happening, your confidence is already broken. Your mind is already confused. Your peace is already stolen. The Stoics understood something most people still ignore today. The greatest battles are not fought with swords. They are fought inside your mind. And the manipulator's favorite battlefield is your emotions. Today, you will learn how to detect a manipulator before it's too late. Not with fear, not with anger, but with calm stoic awareness. Because once you see clearly, no one can control you again. Manipulators are not always evil masterminds. Many are simply weak people who discovered a powerful shortcut. Instead of building strength, they learn to control others. Instead of facing their fears, they learn to create fear in others. Instead of earning respect, they learn to demand it emotionally. A manipulator survives by one rule. If I can control how you feel, I can control what you do. This is why Stoic philosophy teaches emotional independence. A Stoic does not allow praise to inflate him. A Stoic does not allow insults to destroy him. Because the moment your emotional buttons are visible, someone will press them. And manipulators are experts at this. Manipulators hate slow relationships. They fear time, because time reveals truth. So they rush connection. They rush trust. They rush intimacy. They say things like, "I've never met someone like you. I feel like we are meant to be. You are the only one who understands me." At first, it feels magical. Sparkles. But Stoic wisdom asks a powerful question. Why would someone who just met me trust me completely? Healthy relationships grow like trees. Manipulative relationships grow like fire. Fast, intense, dangerous. The Stoic watches carefully. He does not get drunk on emotional excitement. Because he knows, what rises quickly can collapse suddenly. Manipulators often wear the mask of suffering. They tell you long stories about how everyone betrayed them. No one understands them. The world has always been unfair. At first, you feel compassion. You want to help. You want to prove you are different. And this is exactly where manipulation begins. Because now, you are emotionally invested. You start excusing their bad behavior. You start tolerating disrespect. You start carrying burdens that are not yours. The Stoics warned about this emotional trap. They said, pity must never replace wisdom. Helping someone is noble, but saving someone who refuses responsibility will slowly destroy you. A manipulator's greatest weapon is not anger. It is confusion. They say one thing today, and deny it tomorrow. They promise, then blame you for believing them. They hurt you, then convince you it was your fault. This mental game has a modern name: gaslighting. But the Stoics described it thousands of years ago as the corruption of perception. When your reality becomes unclear, your confidence disappears. And when confidence disappears, control becomes easy. A Stoic protects one thing above all: clarity of mind. He writes things down. He observes patterns. He trusts consistent actions, not beautiful words. Because truth does not fear examination. Only deception does. Real connection brings peace. Manipulative connection brings emotional rollercoasters. One day you feel special. The next day you feel worthless. One moment they are affectionate. The next moment they are distant. This is not accidental. It is psychological conditioning. Like gambling, Unpredictable rewards create addiction. You start chasing their approval. You start fearing their silence. You start losing yourself. The Stoics believed, if your happiness depends on another person's mood, you are already in chains. Freedom begins when you stop begging for emotional stability from unstable people. Many people see the red flags early, but they ignore them. Why? Because hope is powerful. Loneliness is painful. Attachment is addictive. They tell themselves, maybe they will change. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe love requires sacrifice. Yes, love requires sacrifice. But Stoic wisdom reminds us, never sacrifice your self-respect to keep someone. Because once self-respect is gone, manipulation becomes permanent. Detecting a manipulator is not about becoming cold, it is about becoming aware. It is not about hating people. It is about understanding human nature. And most importantly, it is about mastering yourself. Because the strongest defense against manipulation is not aggression. It is inner stability. A manipulator never attacks your life all at once. They begin with small invasions. Tiny violations, tiny disrespect, tiny pressure. At first, it seems harmless. They interrupt you when you speak. They make jokes at your expense. They borrow things and forget to return them. They push you to do things you are uncomfortable with. Then they watch you carefully. Eyes. They are not just acting. They are studying you. They want to know, how much can they take? How much can you tolerate? How easily can you be guilted? This is psychological probing. Like a thief testing if a door is locked. The Stoics believed that boundaries are a form of self-respect. If you allow small disrespect, you silently teach people how to treat you. And manipulators learn very fast. A Stoic response is calm but firm. I am not comfortable with that. No drama. No long explanations. No emotional begging. Just clarity. Because manipulators do not fear anger. They fear certainty. One of the most dangerous skills manipulators have is imitation. They study your dreams. They study your fears. They study your values. Then they become your reflection. Suddenly, they love the same things you love. They believe the same things you believe. They want the same future you want. It feels like destiny. Sparkles. But Stoic wisdom teaches caution toward intense emotional illusions. Because real human beings are complex. They disagree sometimes. They have unique identities. They are not perfect mirrors. When someone seems too perfectly aligned too early, you must slow down. Ask yourself, is this connection real? Or is it performance? Manipulators perform to win trust. Once trust is secured, the performance slowly fades, and the true nature appears. At the beginning, manipulators listen deeply. They encourage you to open up. They create emotional safety. You share your childhood pain, your insecurities, your past failures, your fears of abandonment. It feels healing. But later, those same confessions become tools against you. During arguments they say, no wonder people left you. You're just insecure. You're too sensitive because of your past. This is not accidental cruelty. This is strategic control. The Stoics warned that not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Wisdom means revealing yourself slowly. Trust is built in layers, not dumped in desperation. Your vulnerability is sacred, protected. One of the most mentally exhausting traits of manipulators is their ability to reshape the past. Events you clearly remember suddenly become misunderstandings. Promises they made become things you imagined. Pain they caused becomes your overreaction. This constant rewriting creates self-doubt. You begin questioning your memory, your judgment, even your sanity. The Stoics practice journaling for this reason. Writing down events protects reality. When you can see patterns clearly, you become harder to control. Manipulators thrive in emotional fog. Stoics create mental light. A manipulator wants closeness, but not healthy closeness. They want dependency. Notice what happens when you spend time with other friends. Focus on your goals. Say no to their demands. Show emotional strength. Suddenly, they become cold. They withdraw affection. They create arguments. They accuse you of betrayal. This is emotional punishment. It is designed to train you like an animal. So next time, you avoid independence to avoid conflict. The Stoic refuses this training. He understands. Love that requires you to shrink is not love. Real connection celebrates your growth. Manipulation fears it. Manipulators create cycles. Pain, right pointing arrow. Apology, right pointing arrow. Affection, right pointing arrow. Hope, right pointing arrow. Pain again. Each apology feels sincere. Each affectionate moment feels like proof that they still care. You begin living for the good moments, like a gambler chasing a rare win. This creates trauma bonding, a deep emotional attachment formed through instability. Stoic philosophy teaches emotional sovereignty. Your peace must not depend on unpredictable people. Because the moment you need chaos to feel love, you are already trapped. Manipulators are not always obvious villains. They can be charming, intelligent, attractive, successful, but their patterns never lie. When you learn to observe calmly, you begin to see through performances. And awareness is power. A manipulator rarely argues to understand. They argue to win. Notice how simple discussions slowly become emotional interrogations. You start explaining your feelings, but somehow you end up defending your character. You try to talk about what hurt you, but suddenly you are apologizing. They bring up old mistakes. They change the topic. They exaggerate your words. This is conversational domination. The goal is not truth. The goal is control. The Stoics believed that calm speech is a shield. When conversations become chaotic, the wise person slows down. He speaks less. He chooses words carefully. He refuses emotional traps. Sometimes the most powerful response is simply, I will not continue this conversation if it becomes disrespectful. Manipulators thrive on emotional noise. Silence and clarity weaken their influence. Guilt is one of the strongest emotional levers, and manipulators know how to pull it. They remind you of everything they have done for you. They describe themselves as misunderstood heroes. They make you feel selfish for having boundaries. They say things like, after everything I did for you, you're just like everyone else. I guess I don't matter to you. These statements are not expressions of pain. They are psychological pressure tactics. The Stoic understands a powerful truth. You are responsible for your actions, not for managing another adult's emotions. Compassion does not mean surrender. Kindness does not mean obedience. When guilt becomes constant, freedom disappears. Sometimes manipulators do not shout. They disappear. They stop replying. They stop showing warmth. They pretend you don't exist. This silence is not peace. It is punishment. It creates anxiety. Overthinking. Emotional panic. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Why are they acting like this? What can I do to fix it? And that is the trap. The Stoic response is different. Instead of chasing, he stabilizes himself. Instead of begging, he returns to his purpose. Because emotional withdrawal is powerless. When you are internally grounded, Manipulators often push you slowly toward emotional explosion. They insult subtly. They disrespect quietly. They frustrate repeatedly. Until one day, you react strongly. You shout. You cry. You lose control. Then suddenly, they become calm observers. They say, "See, you're the toxic one. This is strategic provocation." They create the storm, then blame you for the rain. Stoic training focuses heavily on emotional discipline, not because feelings are bad but because uncontrolled reactions give power away. The calmer you become, the harder it is for manipulators to create false narratives. Manipulators dislike thoughtful pauses. They create urgency. Decide now. If you really cared, you would do it. Why are you overthinking? Pressure forces mistakes. It bypasses logic. It activates fear of loss. The Stoics practice deliberate thinking. They believed that time reveals truth. So when someone rushes you emotionally, slow down intentionally. Say, "I will think about it." A manipulator hears this and becomes uncomfortable. Because patience breaks manipulation. Chosen. They say, "I only open up to you. No one understands me like you. You are different from everyone else." This creates emotional exclusivity. You feel important, valued, needed, but slowly, this special role becomes a responsibility. You must always be available. Always supportive, always forgiving. The Stoic perspective is balanced. Feeling valued is healthy. Feeling obligated to carry another person's emotional world is not. True connection gives freedom. Manipulation creates invisible contracts. By now, you begin to see the pattern. Manipulation is rarely loud at the beginning. It is subtle, psychological, gradual, but awareness changes everything. Once you recognize these tactics, you stop reacting blindly. And when reaction stops, control weakens. Manipulators rarely say, "Stop talking to your friends." They are smarter than that. Instead, they plant seeds. Seedling. They say, "I don't trust that friend." Your family doesn't really support you. People are jealous of what we have. At first, it sounds like concern. But slowly, you start withdrawing. You cancel plans. You stop sharing your struggles with others. You begin living inside a smaller emotional world. And in that smaller world, the manipulator becomes the center. The Stoics valued community, but not dependency. They believed that a strong mind maintains multiple pillars of support. When one person becomes your only emotional oxygen, you become easy to control. Healthy relationships expand your life. Manipulative relationships shrink it. After spending time with a manipulator, you may feel strangely exhausted. Not physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Why? Because manipulation requires constant emotional processing. You are always trying to understand their mood. Trying to avoid conflict. Trying to fix invisible problems. Trying to prove your loyalty. This creates internal tension. The Stoics taught energy awareness long before modern psychology. They believed, if a person repeatedly steals your peace, distance is wisdom, not cruelty. Your life force is limited. Spend it where growth exists, not where confusion repeats. In public, they may appear charming, supportive, funny, kind. Others admire them. You start questioning your own negative experiences. How can someone so nice be manipulative? But in private, they become cold, critical, controlling. This dual personality is deeply disorienting. The Stoics warned about judging people only by reputation. They believed, character is revealed in consistent behavior, not social performance. Observe how someone treats you when no one else is present. That is where truth lives. Manipulators often position themselves as your guide, your healer, your protector, your only source of understanding. They give advice constantly. They solve problems for you. They encourage you to rely on them. At first, it feels comforting. But slowly, your confidence weakens. You stop trusting your own judgment. You seek their approval before making decisions. This is psychological conditioning. The Stoics emphasized self-trust. They trained themselves to sit alone with difficult decisions. Because the moment you believe, I cannot function without this person, your freedom is already compromised. Manipulators rarely destroy confidence in one blow. They chip away at its small comments. Small comparisons. Small humiliations disguised as jokes. They say, you're not really leadership material. You're too emotional. You always mess things up. Over time, these statements become internal voices. You begin doubting your strengths. You lower your ambitions. You accept less from life. The Stoics believed identity must be built from within. External opinions are temporary, but if you allow them to define you, you become a prisoner of perception. Whenever life becomes calm, manipulators may unconsciously or consciously create drama. Sudden arguments. Unexpected emotional breakdowns. Urgent problems that only you can solve. Why? Because chaos keeps you engaged. If everything is peaceful, you might start thinking clearly. And clear thinking threatens manipulation. The Stoic mind does not panic easily. It observes patterns. It questions timing. It refuses to be emotionally hijacked by repeated emergencies. Not every crisis deserves your energy. Some are carefully designed distraction. By now, the picture is becoming clearer. Manipulation is not only about words. It is about environment, energy, identity, connection. It is a slow psychological reshaping. But awareness restores power. Many people believe manipulation happens by accident. It does not. Manipulators are highly observant. They scan for emotional signals the way predators scan for movement. They notice who seeks validation, who fears abandonment, who avoids conflict, who gives too much too fast. Kindness alone does not attract manipulators. Unprotected kindness does. The Stoics never taught people to become cold. They taught people to become strong and compassionate at the same time. Because compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. One of the deepest manipulation hooks is fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood. When this fear controls you, you tolerate behavior that violates your soul. You stay silent when you should speak. You stay present when you should leave. You stay loyal when loyalty is not returned. The Stoics practiced emotional detachment, not because they didn't value relationships, but because they understood this truth. Anything you are terrified to lose has the power to control you. Freedom begins when you accept that some people are meant to leave your life. Empathy is beautiful. It allows us to understand pain, to support others, to build deep connections. But manipulators exploit excessive empathy. They tell tragic stories. They display emotional wounds. They create situations where you feel responsible for their healing. Soon, you are sacrificing your time, your goals, your mental health. All in the name of helping them. Stoic wisdom reminds us, you can care about someone without carrying their entire life. Helping should empower people, not enslave you. Many strong people fall into manipulation not because they are weak, but because they are hopeful. They see who someone could become. They imagine future change, future maturity, future emotional stability, so they endure present suffering. But the Stoics believed in accepting reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Not as we wish it to be. They practiced radical honesty with themselves. If someone shows you consistent patterns, believe the pattern. Potential is not reality. And living inside imagined futures can trap you in painful presents. Manipulators sense self-doubt quickly. They notice when you apologize excessively, minimize your achievements, accept disrespect quietly, seek reassurance constantly. These behaviors communicate something silently. I do not fully value myself. And when self-value is low, external approval becomes addictive. The Stoics built self-worth internally, through discipline, integrity, purpose, self-respect. Because a person who respects himself deeply cannot be easily controlled by emotional games. When you develop inner stability, manipulation becomes difficult. Because you are not desperate for validation. You are not terrified of solitude. You are not easily provoked. You are not confused by emotional storms. Stoic practice trains you to observe your thoughts, to separate feelings from facts, to respond, not react. Manipulators depend on reaction. When reaction disappears, their influence weakens naturally. This is silent power. Not aggressive, not dramatic, but unshakable. Sometimes awareness is not enough. You may clearly see manipulation, yet still feel emotionally attached. Walking away feels painful. It feels like failure, like loss, like uncertainty. But the Stoics believed, temporary pain is often the price of long-term freedom. Leaving a manipulative environment is not weakness. It is self-respect in action. Your peace is worth protecting. Your mind is worth defending. Your life is worth reclaiming. Now you understand something powerful. Manipulation is not just about them. It is also about your inner world. Your fears, your hopes, your boundaries, your self-belief. Manipulators depend on speed. Emotions, fast reactions, fast decisions. They create pressure so you act without thinking. The Stoics trained themselves to pause before responding. Not because they were slow, but because they were deliberate. When someone says something hurtful, pause. When someone pressures you emotionally, pause. When you feel guilt rising, pause. This small space between stimulus and response is where your power lives. Inside that pause, you choose logic over impulse, and manipulation begins to lose its grip. Manipulation thrives in confusion, so the Stoics used a simple but powerful tool: journaling. After intense interactions, write down exactly what happened. What was said, what was promised, how you felt, what patterns you notice. Over time, clarity forms. You begin to see cycles instead of isolated incidents. You stop gaslighting yourself. Truth becomes visible on paper. And once truth becomes visible, emotional fog disappears. Boundaries are not walls to punish people. They are structures that protect your peace. Manipulators often react strongly when you set limits. They may become angry, play victim, threaten to leave, accuse you of selfishness. This reaction is not proof you are wrong. It is proof the boundary is working. The Stoic sets limits calmly. I am not available for this. I will not accept disrespect. I need time to think. No shouting, no defending endlessly, just firm emotional posture. Consistency turns boundaries into reality. Manipulators are often skilled speakers. They promise change beautifully. They promise change beautifully. They apologize convincingly. They create emotional speeches that feel sincere. But Stoic wisdom focuses on behavior, not intentions. Not stories, not dramatic expressions. Patterns reveal truth. If someone says they care, but repeatedly causes harm, believe the pattern. A Stoic watches quietly. He gathers evidence over time. Because reality cannot be hidden forever. Detachment is often misunderstood. It is not emotional numbness. It is emotional balance. You can care about someone without letting their chaos control your mind. You can love someone without tolerating manipulation. The Stoics practiced internal distance. They reminded themselves, this situation is temporary. This person's behavior is not my identity. I choose how deeply I engage. This mindset creates psychological space. This mindset creates psychological space. And inside that space, freedom grows. Manipulation becomes powerful when your world becomes small. So the Stoics expanded their lives intentionally. They focused on purposeful work, physical discipline, learning, friendships, personal growth. When your life is rich and meaningful, you are less likely to cling to unhealthy connections. You are already whole, and manipulators feel uncomfortable around whole people. Leaving manipulation or resisting it can feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel doubtful, guilty, uncertain. The Stoics trained themselves to endure discomfort. They saw emotional pain as temporary training, like lifting heavy weights. You have tools, mental armor, clarity, but there is still one final level. Each moment of resistance builds inner muscle. Each time you choose self-respect over emotional dependency, you become harder to control. There comes a moment in every manipulated person's life, a quiet realization. Not dramatic, not explosive. Not dramatic, not explosive, just clear. You suddenly see the pattern, the emotional cycles, the exhaustion, the loss of yourself, and something inside you whispers, "This is not the life I deserve." This awakening is powerful, because manipulation survives only when awareness is absent. The Stoics believed clarity is the beginning of freedom. Once you truly see what is happening, you cannot unsee it. One of the hardest truths is this: you cannot heal someone who refuses responsibility. You cannot love manipulation out of a person. You cannot sacrifice enough to transform them. Many people stay trapped because they believe, if I just try harder, they will change. But Stoic wisdom teaches acceptance. Not passive surrender, but realistic understanding. People change when they decide to change. Your role is not to fix others. Your role is to protect your life. Leaving manipulation can feel like walking into the unknown. You may question yourself. You may feel guilt. You may miss the good moments. But remember, manipulative relationships are rarely 100% pain. But remember, manipulative relationships are rarely 100% pain. There are memories, laughter, connection, and that makes departure emotionally complex. The Stoics prepared for this. The Stoics prepared for this. They practiced letting go mentally, even before life forced them to, because they understood. Attachment without wisdom becomes suffering. Attachment without wisdom becomes suffering. Walking away is not cruelty. It is survival. After manipulation, many people struggle to trust themselves again. Many people struggle to trust themselves again. They ask, how did I allow this? Why didn't I see earlier? Can I trust my judgment? This is normal. Manipulation damages inner confidence. Stoic recovery focuses on small victories, making independent decisions, keeping promises to yourself, creating daily discipline. Creating daily discipline. Each action rebuilds identity. Self-trust returns gradually. Like sunrise after a long night. Real love feels different. It feels calm. Feels calm, stable, respectful, supportive. There is space to grow, space to breathe, space to disagree. Manipulative attachment feels intense but unstable. Possession with devotion, dependence with intimacy. The Stoics valued relationships that strengthened character, not relationships that consumed it. When you experience peaceful connection, you realize how heavy manipulation truly was. The ultimate protection is not suspicion. It is self-mastery. When you build strong boundaries, clear values, independent purpose, emotional awareness. Manipulators lose interest because they seek confusion, not clarity. They seek dependency, not inner strength. A life aligned with Stoic principles. A life aligned with Stoic principles becomes naturally resistant to psychological control. Manipulation is one of the quietest forms of suffering. It does not always leave visible scars. Today you have learned to see, to pause, to question, to protect, to walk away when necessary. This is not about becoming cold, it is about becoming free. Free from emotional chains. Free from fear of losing yourself. Remember this Stoic truth. No one can control a mind that has learned to stand calmly within itself. And once you reach that level, you don't just detect manipulators. You outgrow them. Sometimes the most dangerous prison is the one you don't know you are living in. You laugh. You talk. You stay. But deep inside, something feels wrong. Your intuition whispers the truth long before your mind accepts it. Manipulation does not begin with control. Manipulation does not begin with control. It begins with comfort, with attention, with validation, with emotional intensity. By the time control appears, you are already attached. The time control appears, you are already attached. Part of you wants to leave. Another part of you remembers the good moments. This internal battle is exhausting. You are not weak for feeling this. You are human. But remember, understanding your emotions does not mean you must obey them. There comes a day when you get tired of explaining your worth. When you get tired of explaining your worth, tired of proving your loyalty, tired of begging for basic respect, and in that moment, you stop negotiating your peace. That is the beginning of transformation. Your mind becomes noisy, overthinking, doubt, fear of making the wrong decision. But clarity is not found in panic. It is found in stillness. True strength is not shouting louder. It is standing calmer, not reacting faster, but understanding deeper, when your emotions obey your wisdom. No manipulator can lead you. Walking away may feel like losing someone, but sometimes, it is the first time you truly find yourself. Peace is not loneliness. Peace is not loneliness. Peace is alignment with your own soul. The greatest revenge is not hurting the person who manipulated you. It is becoming someone they can never control again. There are moments in life when everything looks normal on the outside, but inside, something feels deeply unsettled. You smile in conversations. You smile in conversations. You respond to messages. You go about your daily routine. Yet your mind is heavy. Not because of one big disaster, but because of many small emotional cuts that never fully healed. Manipulation is rarely loud at the beginning. It does not announce itself with danger signs. It enters quietly, through kindness, through attention, through connection. It studies you. It learns your fears, your dreams, your loneliness, your desire to feel important. And then slowly, almost invisibly, it begins to reshape your reality. Begins to reshape your reality. You start questioning your instincts. You start explaining your feelings again and again. You start wondering why peace feels so temporary. You start wondering why peace feels so temporary. There is confusion. There is emotional exhaustion. There is a silent loss of self. And the most painful part is, may not even realize what is happening. Because manipulation does not always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like love mixed with anxiety. Support mixed with control. Affection mixed with fear. You feel needed, but also trapped. You feel valued, but also diminished. You feel connected, but also alone. The Stoics understood this human struggle long before modern psychology gave it names. You feel connected, but also alone. The Stoics understood this human struggle long before modern psychology gave it names. They knew the mind could become its own battlefield. They knew the mind could become its own battlefield. They knew external voices could become internal doubts. They knew emotional dependency could slowly replace inner freedom. They knew emotional dependency could slowly replace inner freedom. That is why they trained themselves not just to survive hardship, but to understand human nature deeply. Because when you understand how influence works, you stop becoming an unconscious participant in your own suffering. Manipulators often rely on one powerful illusion. The illusion that you need them more than they need you. They create emotional importance around themselves. They make you feel that your happiness depends on their approval. That your stability depends on their presence. That your future depends on their acceptance. And when this belief grows, your freedom quietly disappears. You begin adjusting your personality to avoid conflict. You silence your opinions to maintain peace. You lower your expectations to keep the relationship alive. But the price is heavy. Because every time you betray your truth, you move further away from yourself. The Stoic path is not about rejecting relationships. It is about entering relationships as a whole person, not as someone seeking completion. When you stand firmly within your values, when you respect your emotional boundaries. When you stand firmly within your values, when you respect your emotional boundaries, when you accept that loss is part of life, manipulation loses its strongest weapon. Fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of starting over. But here is the deeper truth. Starting over is often the doorway to becoming who you were meant to be. Starting over is often the doorway to becoming who you were meant to be. Many people stay in manipulative environments not because they enjoy suffering, but because they fear uncertainty. The known pain feels safer than the unknown freedom. Yet Stoic wisdom reminds us that growth rarely happens inside comfort. It happens when you choose courage over familiarity. When you decide that peace is more valuable than attachment. When you accept that your life is too precious to be lived under emotional control. Breaking free does not always mean dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it means silent clarity. It means reducing emotional availability. It means observing instead of reacting. It means stepping back without explanation. And in that space, something remarkable happens. Your mind becomes quieter. Your thoughts become clearer. Your energy slowly returns. You begin remembering who you were before confusion entered your life. The dreams you postponed. The confidence you buried. The goals you minimized. Rebuilding yourself after manipulation is not instant. Manipulation is not instant. There may be days of doubt, moments of loneliness, memories that pull you backward. But each day you choose self-respect. you move forward. Each time you trust your judgment, you regain strength. Each time you protect your peace, you rewrite your future. The Stoics believed that true victory is internal. The Stoics believed that true victory is internal, not defeating others, but mastering yourself. When you reach that level, you no longer chase validation. You no longer tolerate emotional chaos. You no longer confuse intensity with love. You become calm, grounded, observant, and manipulators sense this change immediately. Not inner stability. A stable mind is difficult to influence. A self-aware person is difficult to confuse. A peaceful soul is difficult to control. This is why your journey is not just about detecting manipulators. It is about becoming someone who naturally outgrows them. Someone whose life is guided by purpose, not by fear of losing people. Someone who values connection, but never at the cost of identity. And one day, you will look back and realize, what once felt like unbearable loss, was actually the beginning of your freedom. What once felt like emotional destruction, was actually the construction of a stronger self. Because sometimes life removes certain people, not to punish you, but to protect your destiny. And when you finally stand alone with clarity, you will understand a timeless Stoic truth. Peace is not found in controlling others. Peace is found in mastering yourself.